I've just spoken to Dr. Taktouk. If you missed my previous live, which I just cancelled, it was only 5 minutes, because he thought we had changed it to 6 o'clock and he was rushing home and he'd just finished his clinic. But I said to him, no, you're going to Mexico. So we decided to do it in clinic at 5 o'clock. And he said, give me 5 minutes. I've just got to do my hair. How much do you love Wassim Taktouk? Anyway, come on, Wassim, you can join me now. That's so funny. I am back. Yes, I am back. Let's get Dr. Wassim back in. Where are you? WAS. There you are. Right. He literally was still treating somebody. He didn't even know. It's so funny that it tells you he can't join when obviously he just wasn't even trying to join. Crossed wires. I'm so sorry. It was originally 6 o'clock because I always go live at 6 o'clock. But Wassim is flying to Mexico. So he said to me, let's do it at 5 o'clock in clinic. And then he was rushing home to do it at 6 o'clock. We're both very stressed. Yes. Thank you very much for being so patient with me. But I've got all your questions. They're amazing. You're incredibly intelligent and articulate. You're asking very funny, but also really informative questions. So we're going to ask him how to treat a sagging brow, a sagging upper eye, how to treat what are known as the naso-labial lines, the marionette lines, how to get a snatched jaw, how to avoid looking overdone, what sort of fillers to choose. He's just going to be brilliant. I know he is. So let's have a look if he's here. Let's see if he's requested to join. He hasn't. Right. He's probably somewhere. Actually, do you know what? He is not that person. He is very handsome. And I know a lot of you have got a huge crush on him. But he doesn't have to titubate. He just naturally looks like that. He's sickening. I don't know why I like him. I don't know why he's my friend. I really don't. Anyway, this video came about because a lot of you watched the video where he said how to get a snatched jawline. And you can see him treating me. And a lot of you said, get him on and I need him to answer our questions and also talk about safety, because the whole point of the video was to show you that filler could look natural. It doesn't have to look done. My face doesn't actually take well to filler. I've got a really big face, so there's no filler in here. That's just all bone, but it was just a little bit in there. I'll tag the video afterwards and you can have a look at him in action. He specializes in, yes, that video is available and I will tag you. It's on Instagram. You can go back and watch it. It's really short. I've edited it down to under 10 minutes. Where are you, Wassim? Where are you? I've invited you again. Come on, Wassim, join me. Are you setting up your ring light? There you are.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. This is horrendous. Hold on.
Everybody was laughing. It was
okay, is that, I didn't even get ready. Okay. Hello.
You don't need to get ready. You're naturally gorgeous. Can I just say to you, Instagram was telling me you couldn't join, but you just couldn't be bothered to join.
Oh, what? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm so excited. I genuinely thought it was 6. I'm really, really sorry, everyone. Really
honestly,
sorry.
What happened was a lot of people came on and said, Wassim says it's 6 o'clock on his stories. I said 6 o'clock normally, and you said I'm going to be in clinic and I'm flying to Mexico. Let's do 5 o'clock from clinic.
I do have my dreaded flight tonight to Mexico. I have all my kit. I'm good to go. I'm like the Juju witch doctor.
Just quickly, Mexico, fun or work?
I'm going to Mexico for a wedding.
Oh, okay. So, are we going to get a Spanish version? Because somebody did ask, of Giorgio Giovanni Giuseppe.
100%. I just have to decide on what the name of the character is. Can we have some suggestions? I want a Mexican name.
We need a Spanish-speaking version of Giorgio Giovanni Giuseppe. And also, does this mean we get Mexican Big Brother?
Oh, possibly. I can't really. I have to make the bride and groom win, don't I? No, I don't.
Don't be ridiculous.
First one's out.
Are you staying in a hotel or are you staying in a house?
I am staying in a hotel. So they've actually, all of us are staying in a hotel. The whole wedding party is staying in a hotel. Yeah. So it's going to be fun.
You can easily kick people out of a hotel. Whereabouts in Mexico are you going?
So we fly into Cancun and it's about an hour from there. It's called Riviera.
Yeah. I've been
something like that. Yeah. I've been to Tulum. I just haven't been there.
But you're before you get to Tulum, you're in that bit there, aren't you?
Yeah, we're not going to Tulum. So it literally in just that bit. But I'm flying overnight through Mexico City and I'm connecting to Cancun.
Why didn't you fly directly to Cancun?
Because I got a really good rate.
Okay.
That's why. I know.
BA do fly directly to Cancun.
Yeah, I'm going Air Mexico. No one write anything here that will scare me. I'm going Air Mexico. I'm not.
Can I just say at this point, this man is incredibly intelligent and smart and logical. He's frightened of flying people.
It's absolutely horrendous. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's full of fuel. It's all metal. It's in the air. Why is it up there? And then the minute that starts and they lock the doors, there's hysteria. So, but I have my Dettol wipes to wipe down the seat. And
very Naomi Campbell.
I taught her everything she knows.
Can you self-prescribe something relaxing?
No, I can't. I can't, but my GP can prescribe me something.
Oh, okay, good. Because for me, for long-haul flights, I just take a little bit of Valium and then I try.
It definitely helps, yeah. It definitely takes the edge off. I think an overnight flight is also handy as well, so...
you just need to knock yourself out. A couple of drinks, knock yourself out, because even the flatbeds... Are you flying business?
Yes.
Even the flatbeds aren't that comfortable.
Yeah, they're not, and that's why I'm doing the
like
connection.
Yeah, and then you've got to get to Mexico City. Mexico City, can I just say, if you ever get the chance to go, it's the most amazing city. It's beautiful. I loved it. I loved it. And everyone said it was going to be really dangerous. I felt very, very safe, and I was having the time of my life. I completely agree. And I think the thing about Mexico City is, in fact, any city, is when people say to you that it's dangerous, it's because they're not used to being in London. That's why. And in London, you kind of have that sense, don't you?
They don't know the grit that we deal with. We can
they don't know how rough it was in Chiswick and Sloane Square, darling. Right. Because you've got, what time's your flight tonight?
I've got to leave. So I had 6 or 7. I've got to leave for the airport at 7:15.
Okay, so hence the fact we could not do a live at 6 o'clock, my love.
No, I was going to do it for an hour. I packed everything. I was going to grab my suitcase and run. But actually, this is better now because I can go home and have an hour to check that everything is in there. Like, I just remembered now I haven't packed my sombrero. So things like that I have to remember to do. I know, it's really bad.
Your packing story last night was so... Except you got it wrong. It was lemons, not limes, but, you know.
This is true. This is true. It was a little throwback to Sorrento.
If it's pleasure and not work, why you're not taking me to mix the margaritas? But then
I know. Next one. Not that they're going to get married again, but no. Next trip you're coming with me.
We don't need to go for a wedding. We'll just go to drink the margaritas.
Yeah, wonderful.
Right. My followers are so smart and ask the most intelligent questions. Let's start with.
I'm scared. Okay.
No, please. Well, the one that inspired this was that I created a video with Wassim about how to get a snatched jaw, and I will link it below. But how can we tighten our jawline when our jawline starts to go?
So I think the way to look at it is first of all, the jawline is the lower part that we see, and there's a knock-on effect from everything in the compartments above it. So if you divide the face into thirds, and it's facial changes or fat changes and bony changes that happen throughout all 3 parts that will have a knock-on effect. What namely happens in this area is you get fat hypertrophy, which is just a fancy medical word for the fat gets bigger. So this fat here and this fat in everyone gets bigger and starts to slide down, but it's pinned by 2 sort of ligaments either side, and so the fat starts to ascend between them, and that's why you get this kind of bump that you can kind of see in some people's jawlines. So what we can do to make that look smoother is actually work with light and shadow, and so really kind of bring the areas that are in the shadow forward and create a nice new snatched is the word, jawline. So dermal fillers do have a place in this area. Of course, the worry is, and this is what social media has a lot to answer for, is a lot of the before and afters that you see on jawlines are always taken in this angle because everyone wants to see this nice smooth line. The reality is you have to also look at the patient from the front, because if you widen someone too much with fillers, you can masculinize someone who didn't want to be masculinized. So you need to be a little bit careful. And so the choice of filler is important. As you know, I use exclusively teoxane fillers because they're designed to move with the tissues and they look the most natural and seamless of finishes for me. So that's one thing that we can do in that area. Another thing we can do is some of the muscles that come up from the neck, these platysmal muscles, all come up here. Look at these.
No, mine are worse than yours.
You know Jurassic Park, that Raptosaurus rossus, whatever it's called.
Mine need doing.
Yeah, so all of those muscles come up and insert into the jawline. And so they, to some degree, create some kind of tension onto that jaw and can contribute to the jowls. So one thing you can do is actually, with Botox, with botulinum toxin, anti-ring, don't say the brand, inject into the muscles that are pulling down and essentially neutralize their pulling down effect. So that will assist to some degree as well. Other things that you have to kind of sometimes think outside the box, because this jawline is also can be a consequence of flattening and volume loss in the middle of the face, which can be adding sort of to that. So if you actually volumize the mid face a little bit, if it needs it, always remember staying within the proportions what is natural for that person, you can actually create a bit of tension onto the skin underneath as well, which will also contribute to that jawline. I feel like that was the longest answer in history.
No, it's brilliant. Also, can I just say, are you a fan of using skin boosters in the neck area? Because Mary Greenwell swears by them, and Mary Greenwell sees Wassim.
She does. So we do skin boosters. So I think the skin boosters are all great. There are several on the market, and they all have slightly different chemical compositions. Sometimes I mix them up. So sometimes I'll create a bespoke. We have a face and neck menu here where we'll sometimes pick, you know, the different ingredients of each of them and tailor it to the neck of the skin. The skin is thinner there. The skin does, you know, tack neck, and it's kind of that area that was often neglected. And the skin just feels a little bit less tight there. So skin boosters can be great to plump up that skin with hydration and whatever the nutrients are that you're injecting. And it can help a fair bit. But you can also actually come into the lines individually. And you can inject filler into there. And this is where the choice of product has to be resilient. It's such a mobile, bendy area. You have to use a very, very watery and elastic filler in this area. So we do something called RHA1 there.
The person that's asking what skin boosters are, essentially they are a non-filler form of hyaluronic acid, simply to hydrate the skin. So they're putting lots of tiny little droplets under the skin and they hydrate the skin. They're brilliant for crepey skin.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
So think of hyaluronic acid as spaghetti, right? So when it's really overcooked, that's dermal filler. So the strands of spaghetti are stuck together. So when I inject it, it stays put. Whereas with skin boosters, it's like that buttery sort of spaghetti where the spaghetti strands all separate. So when they're injected, they just go everywhere. It's like moisture. It's injecting moisturizer plus added ingredients into the area. That's the difference between a skin booster. So they both come from the hyaluronic acid family. They're just cooked differently.
Now, one of the things you missed when you were too busy selfishly treating your patients rather than joining me on a live is, and you don't actually know this, is in 2 weeks' time, I've got Dr. Christine Hall coming on, telling me about her top 10 beauty buys. And by the way, somebody said in the live I did earlier on for 5 minutes, how long is Dr. Taktouk's wait list? And I said, I'm afraid it is quite long. April.
It's not about, I think that when you're seen in the clinic, you're then a patient. You never have to, that doesn't happen every time. It's just for the first appointment, because the existing patients have to be able to pick up the phone and say, I want an appointment at this time. Like a patient who's been with me for 10 years, I can't say, see you next December when they want to have Botox. Like, I'm not a neurosurgeon. Like, it doesn't need that much for wait. So I think it's more for fairness for our existing patients as well. But when the patient is initially seen after that first consult, they are a patient. And so they call and they can make appointments regularly. That's all.
Once you're in, people. But also, totally. Can I just say, the reason I'm inviting Christine on is because she's part of Wassim's group, so that you can see her and you will get the same level of standard of quality of treatment.
She's absolutely brilliant and incredibly knowledgeable, and very technically skilled. So you're in the greatest of hands. She's booking up fast now. So so yeah, get on it. But she's lovely, and she's very ethical, and she's very safe, and all the things that I think are the most important in this area for us.
And also, can I just say, for everybody asking about HIFU and lasers and gadgets, I've also got Professor Faraz coming on soon.
Amazing.
He travels the world, but I'm going to try and get him to do his amazing before and afters and actually hold them up on camera.
Yeah, they're incredible. I think Professor Faraz is an international diamond smuggler. I smell a rat. Something is going on. This man is always in the air, going from country to country. No, I'm kidding. He's, again, just the nicest guy, very ethical, very skilled, and really has you should see his Instagram, he's some really life-changing before and afters, things that perhaps maybe others would have shied from treating or said there's no hope type thing. He kind of loves to take on those cases and just can do some pretty incredible transformations. I
was saying earlier on in the live that before you joined, that he treats things like port wine birthmarks and rhinophyma. His before and afters are amazing. I'll get him on and we'll somehow work out so he can hold them up so that you can see them, because they are Truly life-changing. They're amazing.
When the date comes, I'll print them out for him, so you can do that.
Okay, thank you. Can I just say to anybody out there that's watching this at a later date, if you're a TV producer, you need to create a reality show, an intelligent, informed one, based at the Taktouk, because it's amazing. Some of the work is mind-blowingly brilliant.
Thank you.
That's just me. Right, next question. How do I deal with marionette lines and nasolabial folds, and are they connected? So these are the nasolabial, so between nose and lip. These are the marionette lines here, which I call the Chicago ventriloquist dummy ones.
Well, that's what isn't that what a marionette is? It's a puppet, right? So this is very interesting, because the way we look at fillers has changed a lot. And actually, when I was first taught, and certainly when many of my colleagues we discussed this were taught, the first thing you were ever taught to do, historically, was pick up a needle and inject the nasolabial fold. And it's not that it's a disaster, it's the wrong way of thinking around things. The way to treat a nasolabial fold and to treat a marionette line is to leave them as the last thing that you do treat, because you have to consider what is causing them. And what is causing them is fat changes in the face. So like we said, there's an increase in fat here, there's an increase in fat here, and there's a loss of fat here. So the first thing to do is to re-inflate the fat pockets that have shrunk, because they're doing this. Everything's kind of swerving inwards. So if you are able to re-inflate the fillers in the cheek, the idea is you create a bit of tension on this skin and make the nasolabial fold less prominent. And the same applies to the marionette. That's not to say you can then not at a later date come in and treat this area, but it's wrong to go straight in and do this without having assessed someone's face. Now, obviously, some patients have great volume in their face. They don't need to have, it's on a case-by-case basis, and really this doesn't substitute a consultation. You need to come in and we have to assess and see what's going on. But the way that we treat it is slightly different. So it tends to be sort of volume in the outer areas that have lost their volume and cause this kind of, it's called pseudotosis. It's called, it comes on like that. So that's what we're doing.
If you look at the video of Wassim doing my jawline, he doesn't just do a little bit here, a little bit here. He does this really clever thing in here. And it wasn't that I had a line, but I just had a very slight shadow and it just raised it up. Honestly, when I did that video, I thought that somebody would come on and say that the changes are so subtle, why bother? I've never had such positive feedback from a treatment video, ever.
But that's also part of it. Like, no one wants a complete transformation of their face. If you see it and you feel good about yourself with it, like, I don't care that anyone else notices or not. If you know, the patient is my priority, and if I've delivered what they wanted to, subtle or not subtle to anyone else's eyes, it's kind of irrelevant. As long as they're getting it, and it was such a nice treatment, and super subtle.
So to treat here, you would be injecting here, would you?
Yeah, you would start here, but you can always come back in and volumize here also. But I think that needs to be the afterthought. I think an assessment of the face here is crucial first. Some patients have more volume in their midface; they don't need it. So like I said, it's a case-by-case process. But a lot of times, you will find that there is some flattening or volume loss outwards, and that's what and volume gain here, and that's what's causing it to sort of slope inwards.
And then the treatment for the line here would be filler back here, would it?
Yeah. So well, here you would start with actually the midface, because that will create some tension on the skin here, and then you're kind of looking at light and shadow. So the reason you're seeing this line is because there's a bit more volume here and a little less under here, and it's creating a shadow. So you almost like a fan volumize in that way to blend this into this tissue. You're not going to create a cash register draw. It's not going to suddenly do that, but it's just going to blend really, really nicely, and that shadow will just be less obvious.
It's very interesting as well for somebody watching the video, and I was really careful to not have too many injection shots in the video because I know a lot of people are really squeamish. Can I tell you, even though I was really badly bruised afterwards, it didn't hurt. I'm just a bruiser. It didn't hurt. It really didn't at all. And I'm not editing it to make me look brave.
Yeah.
There's no reaction from me at all. The initial injection is very slightly strange, but then there's an anesthetic in the filler. So then after a while, you just don't feel it.
Yeah. And to be fair, this is quite a bruisey area. So bear that in mind. If you are having that treatment, is to consider things like downtime, specifically in this area.
I was filming a couple of days later. Concealer covered it perfectly, but
Yeah.
I do bruise. I mean, if I walk into a cupboard or a door, I will bruise badly on my legs, so it's fine. Right, okay. Do you do non-surgical rhinoplasty? Are you a fan of them? And can they help with a bulbous tip? And the person who asked this question then put in brackets afterwards, i.e. bulbous tip,
what do I think of non-surgical plasties? I think they're brilliant. I think in the right hands, they can be done beautifully. I think it is a high-risk area to have this treatment, and certainly patients who've had previous rhinoplasties, actual surgery to their nose, need to really think about who they're seeing. For example, I won't necessarily treat someone who's had a nose job beforehand, an actual traditional surgery, for a non-surgical rhinoplasty. I will send them on to someone else who does a bit more of that kind of work. So they can be very, very effective. They're better, in my opinion, from profile. So I think they can mask a bump pretty nicely. If you've got a downward drooping nose, you can sort of reposition where it points, so it's pointing that way. Do I think that it can help a bulbous nose? There's two ways of doing it. So if you imagine it's like that, right? So that's the bulb. So you can put filler either side above where the bulbous nose is, so that it looks a little bit less like that, so it just blends in a bit more. And then some colleagues or some practitioners will actually just inject a thin strip down the middle to almost create it's a light trick, right? It's an optical illusion. So you're creating a little bit of light. So the illusion is that it's narrower, but you haven't actually made it narrower. You're just kind of changing the way the light hits off it, which then gives it an illusion. I mean, it's stuff that makeup artists do all the time. With makeup, that's essentially what we're doing with syringes. And with fillers, we're working with light and shadow and light reflexes, which can make things look sharper, wider, narrower, what is it you need to do.
Someone asked just now, which I think is a brilliant question, how long do fillers last? It's quite
so
a contentious question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's tricky, because even if you actually open the individual packets, there is quite a range on them, and that's because there are many factors that are involved. Some people just burn through them full stop. Some people just fillers don't last in them as much as others. People who are very active sometimes can also break through a little bit faster. Heat isn't fillers' best friend, so all these things kind of match. But you can get ranges as far as on a box, or say from 9 months to 24 months. It really can be that different. I mean, that's a crap answer, but everyone kind of wants the longer end of the range, but it can be shorter in some cases. I think people want a number, don't they? They want a number. It's 9 months plus, I'd say, in some fillers, and in some fillers, 12 months plus.
So would it be a general rule, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the thicker the filler, as in the filler that goes really deep on the bone, tends to last longer?
Yeah. So the more that the filler has been modified, so remember those spaghetti strands, the more there are little bits that are these links that stick the chains together. The more of those there are, usually the tougher it is for the fillers to be broken down, as a general rule. So some brands will take that long chain and chop it into small pieces and put lots and lots of ones to really make it stick together. And that makes it last a long, long time. I'm not a fan. Something doesn't sit well with me with something being in my skin for way too long. So I think a sensible amount of time is probably ideal. So with the RHA range, the Teoxane one, they have maintained your natural long chains of hyaluronic acid, and they put very fine clips together so that this whole stretches. So the more they're modified and bonded together, I guess the longer they last.
Totally separate, but I'm very interested in your answer to this. Do you believe skin supplements work, and do you believe collagen supplements work?
I don't know that I have seen enough convincing data on it, and I can tell you I can tell you from my patient population. So patients who have tried them and adhered to them. There are people who say to me, I notice a difference. And I think that it's not for me to judge someone. No, you know your skin. You know your skin, if your skin quality has improved or not. So unless you're doing proper, skin biopsies and looking at things, which I believe some brands have done, I think the key with these skin supplements and collagen supplements is you're not going to get a result by using it for a month. So you're going to have to do this for quite a long period of time to see the changes. So I think that some people aren't always that compliant. I think I'm really impatient. Like if I had a collagen supplement from a month and didn't look 15 again, then I would just not bother. But people are different. So I think the key is adhering to it and being compliant. I sit on the fence. I'm not saying that they don't work. I guess people want a brand for me to recommend. Etherne has collagen in it and some other astaxanthin antioxidants. Again, I sit on the fence on this one a little bit.
I did an item for this morning over the summer, and essentially I think the most recent research says you need between 10 and 20 grams a day. Hydrolyzed collagen is best. Bovine collagen is the gold standard. So you kind of got to choose something that's reasonably priced, because that's a lot to take every day.
Yeah.
And I think we did the research this morning, and I think Vital Proteins came out the best. But again, they sent me lots. I haven't taken it.
Yeah, I didn't hear the last thing you said. What did you say?
I said they sent me loads, and I still haven't taken it.
Oh, you said there you go, and you've got it sitting there.
Yeah. But our mutual friend Alice Hart-Davis, who is the Tweakment queen, she swears by them.
She loves it. Yeah, but Alice is really good with this stuff. Like Alice would actually stick through it and see a result. So I don't know how many of us would do the same thing.
Yeah. Do you take any supplements at all?
I do, but I don't think I'm as regular with them as possible. They kind of come in. I mean, obviously, like you, we get that stuff, so we'll try stuff here and there. I do like for a long time I did use a lot of the Altriant supplements, and I like their vitamin C. It's not the nicest tasting. Like you have to be quite dedicated to do this. They have a glutathione, which is the mother of all antioxidants. They had a nice supplement of that, which I used for a while. The smell isn't the greatest, but I wonder if that has something to do with it. But I was adding it to apple juice and having it as a shot.
I'm currently taking Altriant C and the Altriant B blend, because my B has gone through the floor again.
Yes.
But I really like, I tell you what I have started taking, which you recommended to me. I've always used the Deluxe spray, but I'm now using the B12 spray of theirs as well.
Yeah.
The ones that you just spray into your mouth.
Yeah, the tongue one. I have it on my desk.
Yeah, you do, which is why you said to me, start taking it, because essentially Wassim was brilliant and helped me out when my B12 was on the floor by giving me injections. And he said to me, if you just take the spray, it bypasses the gut, which is my issue. So I'm trying it, and it seems to be working, so fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Back to questions. Should I be worried about filler in my cheeks? And I know what they're talking about. They're talking about the overblown pillow face.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to that is no. Okay, and the reason you shouldn't be worried is because hopefully everyone is seeing a good, registered, qualified practitioner. So the reason people are scared of pillow face, as it were, or overinflated cheeks is because that's bad work. You only see that because it's so bad you can't miss it. So a lot of people walk around with cheek filler that you don't know. A lot of your friends may have had cheek filler. So there's a lot more of it that's going under the radar. You're just not seeing it because it's not overinflated. I think the key with cheek fillers is understanding what you're replacing. So if someone never had voluminous cheeks, you're not going to go and suddenly give them to them. But if someone has lost volume in specific areas of their cheeks, you can replace it so it looks like them, a decade ago, whatever it is. Why would you be fearful of that? You're just kind of winding back the aging changes of their face. I think where it goes wrong is when people inflate it past what was natural for that person. And so that comes down to practitioner. The practitioner should be able to say to you, that's it, that's enough. I ask patients to send in, before the consultation, they have to email in photographs of themselves and we have a look. And I say, when they say cheek this, that, I'm like, well, you never really have had them. So, let's talk about this. You're not going to look like this. And I think as long as you can be realistic and set realistic expectations, and patients have to be realistic. If you never had cheeks, do you suddenly want to have?
It's so interesting. I remember the first time I met you and we had a consultation, you made me bring in pictures of myself and I was sort of 18, 28, 38, 48, 58. And you're absolutely right. I think the problem is that there are some very high profile women who are my age, shall we say, who do not have lines on their faces. And the only way you can do that is by inflating a face. And I just think it's time to embrace your lines, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, but also why are people starting to look like completely different people? Like that's just a bit weird too, right? I know.
I
don't
love
know who you're talking about.
Why? Madonna, why? I love you. You don't need to do it. What is
Looks
wrong
like,
with a few lines, Madonna?
that's a
I'm
case.
sorry,
I mean,
I had to say that. He was too professional to say it.
But you know, it's a case of someone starting to actually look like a completely different human being, and it's because of this fear of wrinkles or shadows and this and that. And actually, you can go too far as to looking like a different person. But you know, that's also the practitioner. The practitioner should be able to say no. I mean, if she came in, I'd probably shit myself and do what she asked me to do. So I said that to you. I mean, but it is the practitioner. It does also, the onus is also on the practitioner as well to be able to say no.
Yeah, I know, you're right. But I wouldn't say no to her. Right, so the question about the BBL, the halo, the moxie is not the question for Dr. Taktouk. It is the question
Professor
Faraz, and he will be on in a couple of weeks, I promise. What can you do for droopy brows and by association droopy lids? Is there anything that can be done apart from standing like this the whole time?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I'm not a fan of threads in this area. I've been very clear about that. So you have to think about what's causing the droopy brows. So one of the things that happens is sort of male and female skulls age slightly differently, and then around the time of menopause, the female skull becomes more masculinized. And I have this with me here.
It
so
really
this
does. You know, can I just say, you're absolutely right. I love my dad more than anybody in the whole world, but I am beginning to turn into him.
No, you're not.
He was a very handsome man.
Oh no! But well, is that because of the bone here that you notice this part?
I can feel my Eastern European skull appearing through my face like a Halloween meme.
Well, what happens is this. You get, sorry, can you see this kind of dip here starts to happen? And if you imagine then, you know, there's changes in your skin, things are generally making their way down, and there's fat there that's probably disintegrated something. So actually what you can do is you can fill that area to plump it up again. So you've gone from having a slightly more concave forehead to a flatter or slightly more convex. That's why you're around, yeah, convex. So round it out. And what that will do when you add volume there is it can gently reposition the eyebrows. That's number one.
I'm in.
Yeah, then you can actually put these are great. There's two more tricks we can do there. So then you can also put filler in temples. So as time passes, we get this kind of loss of volume. There's fat changes, muscle changes in this area, and it kind of starts to sink in. It's quite meanly called peanut head. I think it's a horrible description, but this kind of sort of moves in. If you re-inflate that area to where it used to be, so you're not going to get someone who has temples big moon head, but you're going to be able to also create some tension on the skin where the eyebrow is. That's the second thing you can do. Thirdly, you can actually come in just above the eyebrow and create a tiny bit of volume. Just, I guess you have to, let me try and see if I can explain it on this. You put it right there. Right? So that the eyebrow almost sits or hooks on it. So I think the combination of those three, again, guys, this is not to substitute a consultation. These may not apply to you in the slightest, but they might also do that. But fillers can be used in this area. So that's one thing that we can do.
Neuromodulators, I nearly said the B word. Can neuromodulators be used to raise eyebrows or not?
1 billion%. So 1 billion%. So you have to think of the position of your eyebrows is based on a tug of war. Okay, you've got this massive muscle pulling them up, so that's the frontalis, and you've got other muscles that are pulling down. So if you think about that, sort of doing this, and then the eyebrows are sitting in the middle. If you knock out every muscle that is pulling down, the one that's pulling up wins, right? So the eyebrows go up. So the idea then is these muscles, which bring the eyebrows down, and if you squint really tightly and you see how the eyebrow curls in, if you hit these muscles and this muscle, so you've blocked out everything that's trying to pull the eyebrows down, this big badass muscle does this and wins. That's the idea. Did that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Okay.
I mean, I have to say mine has been done about 4 or 5 months ago now, and I'm just liking it when it settles in so that I get a softening, but not that. I always get the opposite. I get that.
So the difficulty... So
Can I just say, by the way, this man is not responsible for my Botox. I was not being incredibly rude there.
What happens, so the reason you can sometimes get this happening is because, remember, the muscle that lifts the eyebrows, this big one, if you overload it, if you overblock it, sorry, you've completely removed that muscle's ability to lift the eyebrows. So the guys are pulling downward. So this happens. So the difficulty sometimes happens when patients want the eyebrow lift and they want no lines.
Line-free forehead. Yeah.
It's impossible. It's impossible. So you have to think of other things that you can do. So things like fillers in that point, you know, to plump up the forehead, which wouldn't be noticeable face on, but maybe from the side you have a slight convexity, which is anyway in itself useful. That is something you could do in addition. But having through neuromodulators, you know, lifted brow and no movement here is a tricky one.
Yeah, absolutely. But if I do have my forehead done, we shall video it, obviously.
Yes.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. One of my followers says her practitioner has told her to dissolve an old filler and redo her lips. The dentist says no, just wait. Is either of the right answers correct or wrong, or what's the problem with dissolving fillers?
There's no problem with dissolving fillers. Obviously, it's a medical procedure in its own right, so it's not something we like to steer away from. Oh, have this treatment, and if you don't like it, you get dissolved. That mindset is wrong, because it's a treatment in its own right. Dissolving, there's, you know, you could have a reaction to it. So it is really for emergency use. But we can use it to break down filler. The question, what she hasn't mentioned in her question is how long ago this filler was. So if this filler was done 3-4 months ago, she could wait a bit longer. But if that's been sitting there for a while and she has this filler hasn't broken down, it might be an idea to break down. Also because you might have a different technology of filler being used. So you almost kind of want to start on a blank canvas. And if you've got sort of a lump, let's say this was, I'm guessing it's a lump that she still has, and someone is injecting, they'd have to sort of work around and not inject where the light. It just makes it really, really tricky. And I think the practitioner would probably rather have a clean slate. I personally would.
The enzyme that dissolves, does it also dissolve your natural hyaluronic acid? And is that
yeah, it's hyaluronidase is the enzyme. We naturally have it. Our body, it's an endogenous enzyme of ourselves. That was redundant. So what happens is, yeah, so you will see a complete deflation in the area. So if lips are really full and they're hyalase, you will get some loss of the natural HA in the area as well. But you remember, we're always making hyaluronic acid. So you know, we just break it down every 72 hours. So that shouldn't be too concerning. But again, I don't like to highlight that is a treatment option, because I think my worry is that we get too much into a mindset of, oh well, let me try it, because if I don't like it, I'll just dissolve it, and that's not good.
Yeah, don't worry, Keely, I'm going to save this. You can go back and watch it from the beginning. Thoughts on microneedling in clinic? Do you offer microneedling, or do you no?
We don't do microneedling. I guess the closest that we do is Morpheus 8. Morpheus 8 is a machine. The machine has needles in it, like a microneedle. The difference between microneedling and Morpheus 8 is at the end of every needle, it emits a radio frequency, the idea being that it stimulates collagen in that area. It's a controlled trauma. So the way to have these results is to traumatize your skin, but you're doing it in a very, very controlled way. So you create these tiny traumas through the needle and through the radio frequency, and that responds by making collagen. That's the closest that we have in clinic to microneedling. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, no, what do you like Morpheus 8 for?
Morpheus 8 is a skin treatment primarily. So it will improve the texture of your skin. It will stimulate collagen production. I'm always very wary of the word lift in everything in aesthetics.
That's why I love you.
Because I think the minute the word lift gets involved in any conversation, the expectation can be very, very different. I think we have to just be careful sometimes. Even with fillers, we say lift a lot. My view is that when you restore volume in certain areas, the volume creates almost a tension on the skin. But I think lifting, as per se, is a little bit of a far-fetched word. So it's much more of a skin treatment, and it will help with fine lines. It can tighten skin, is another word that makes me awkward and not feel too great. But I do find that it's combination treatments that work best. So you know, you can use something like an injectable skin booster as well as Profilo to hydrate the skin and get it in a really good top shape. You can use collagen. There's other things that you can do. I just don't like the word lift. I think lift is a I don't know.
If you're worried, if you're concerned about what we're talking about, so we're talking about Morpheus 8, which is the treatment that Judy Murray had all the results from. The problem is that for some reason everybody thought they'd get those results just with Morpheus 8, and she'd actually had filler, skincare, skin boosters, and Morpheus 8. So I've had Morpheus 8. It's not a pleasant treatment. It does improve skin texture. I don't think it lifts.
She had, as to my understanding, she had the Morpheus 8 and skin, a very strict skin. She was doing the Abaji Nuderm, so because she had quite a lot of sun damage on her skin, and that's why her skin had been.
Must have had filler as well, though, right?
And I don't know. It was our Dr. Judy. I should ask her.
With who?
Dr. Judy, who's is our clinic. So Dr. Judy did her treatment.
I need to get Dr. G on and
yes.
ask her. It's an amazing before and after, but if somebody's never used skincare and has been outside, can I just say that, did she have the Abaji blue peel? Is that what she had?
No, she had the Nuderm. So it's a couple of steps that you have to do in the lead up. So she really worked on her skin first before that. So she reduced the pigmentation significantly. I think, to be fair though, I wasn't a fan of the before and after photos because the after one was taken with such brash lighting. And actually, if you'd seen before that, they'd shown the sequences of the different treatments, and then they should have used the last one of the treatments as the after, not the one in a studio with different lighting, because that in itself is phenomenal. That already spoke for itself. But I think that there was a lot of like, oh my God, look, that's got different lighting, and it's true. That should not have been selected as the after. But I think people want the impact, don't they?
I think it was done for the Daily Mail. I used to work for the Daily Mail. Trust me, they like the trickery of the light. The Daily Mail. That's all I'm saying.
There you go.
Are there options for neuromodulators, the B word, if you're frightened of needles?
Are there options, as in a way to administer it, a different way? I mean, we use I think we probably have the tiniest needles you can find. I'm actually going to grab one because I want you to see this.
Can I just say to anybody that's frightened of needles, genuinely, Botox does not hurt. It is the smallest, tiniest needle. And if you're worried, and I'm just going to ask Wassim when he comes back, can you have numbing cream if you're really worried?
Yeah, of course you can. You know what you can do, actually? EMLA, E-M-L-A, is a numbing cream that we use. Doctors, we have to get prescriptions for it. It's a massive 30-gram tube. You can actually go to Boots and get a 5-gram one. It's a small one that you can get without a prescription. Just put that slightly your face with it before you come in. You're honestly not going to feel anything.
It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. And this is so, I don't know if you, can you, what should I use the background? It's so tiny. Should I,
do the influencer
thing. The influencer
there
thing.
You go.
Do you see that? Okay, now look how tiny it is. It kind of bends. Like it's so tiny. It's like a hair. It's really quick.
Now, talking
like, people always come in saying they don't like needles, but they're like, oh, when I had acupuncture. I'm like,
what?
Like that's, yeah.
And also, if you want to see a big needle, you see the B12 jab he gives me. Now that is
yes.
And even then, it doesn't hurt and I don't bruise. So please, come on. Man up, everybody.
It's not too bad. It's really not too bad, and EMLA is your friend if not.
Man up. Talking of which, let's talk about the lip flip. I bloody love my lip flip.
The lip flip is awesome. The lip flip is so you have this big round muscle around your mouth, okay? And when you do that, that's how the muscle gets activated. You may know this muscle because also the contraction of this muscle and the changes in the skin around this area cause what we call smoker's lines. So the lip flip is a variant.
We'll go on to chat about those in a minute.
Yeah, smoker's line. So we use neuromodulators in this area to soften the pouting ability of the patient. But if you come down and you have to sort of assess the lip and you go along the lip line itself, you can actually put some of the neuromodulator in the lip line. And what happens is, instead of people, so it's actually a great treatment for people who do this, who when they smile, their lip turns in, because it holds it right, it prevents that muscle from turning in, so it kind of sits thick. So patients, let me tell you patients who'd be good for. Patients who have good volume at rest, but when they smile, it gets thinner, because then when they smile, it stays thicker. So they don't want to have filler, because at rest, their lips look great. It's just that they turn in and disappear when they smile. They're the perfect candidate for it. Also, anyone who's scared of lip filler, because it does maintain a certain plumpness to the lip, because that muscle just cannot turn the lip in. Side effect of it is sometimes some patients, when it's first injected, feel like, it feels a bit weird. Like when they drink water, it feels funny, but they don't talk funny or look funny or in any way, but it's kind of a loss of control of that. It feels a bit weird.
I didn't notice any weirdness.
That's the only thing.
I just noticed that when I smiled, my top lip didn't disappear. It was
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. And then I put some pictures up, and somebody said they couldn't tell the difference. And then somebody said to me, it only lasts for 4 months. I think it might have gone.
Yeah, you can't. The thing is, you have to keep the dose quite. You can't go too nuts with the dose, because if you totally knock out that ability of the muscle there, then you're asking for trouble. So I think it's the downside of it is, you're quite right, is it doesn't last as long as potentially toxins in the rest of the face, and that's because the dose has to be tiny.
But honestly, it's amazing if you ever get the chance. Can I just say, Botox does not hurt. Being injected in your top lip, it only lasts for a few seconds, but it is a little bit ouchy.
You can put the EMLA. Remember, EMLA is your friend. You can put just a little.
It's over in about 10
Man up, everyone. Yeah.
Man up, everyone, please. Right, okay. Do you have favourite and least favourite fillers? And is that an unfair question to ask you?
Do I have a favourite and
a least favourite?
Like within the ones that I use? I mean
within all of them.
Within
were
all
there ones in the past that you didn't like?
Yeah, definitely. So there are ones that in the past that I tried that had, in my experience, some reactions that I wasn't too pleased about. Listen, I just want to inject the filler and go to bed at night and feel that I'm safe. And I think that there were a couple of brands that I had used in the past. I'm not going to name any, but I'd had some occasional odd, not so straightforward swelling reactions further down the line that didn't make me feel particularly good. And so the range that I use, I've never experienced that with. So I'll answer the one that is my favorite. I use teoxane fillers only. I've been to where they're actually formulated. So I've seen, sorry.
Oh, you've gone quiet, Wassim.
I pause. I've seen them being manufactured. They're very smart fillers. They're stealth fillers. They're designed to move with your face. And I think that the other fillers in the past hadn't really thought about.
Gone quiet again. Sorry. That's it. You've come back. It's when somebody tries to jump in on you on your call or something. You're
yeah, I think I didn't do the. Hold on. Do I do a do not disturb? Will that make everyone go away?
No, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Sorry, peeps. Okay.
No, listen, I'm not naming names either, but I previously, which is why I was asking the question about how long fillers work. I previously had lip filler with another very famous brand, and I've still got lumps in my lips that need dissolving.
Yeah.
And that was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, you'll talk to different practitioners, and different practitioners will have their preference. I use exclusively teoxane, and if you want to know what they look like, you're looking for a silver or a white box. So I think patients need to ask what's in their face. I find it extraordinary that patients don't ask what's going in their body.
You have the right to ask, and you have the right to ask because if you move countries or you change practitioners, you need to tell your new practitioner what's in your face. So
yeah, and
even
keep
if you
records.
go along and take pictures with your phone, remember, it'll remind you of the date and what you've done.
Yeah, and keep records of what you've had. So take a picture of the barcode if you don't want to keep the, we give patients a passport which has stickers of what they've had. If you don't want to do that, you're going to lose it, because I probably would. Take a picture of it on your phone.
And a really smart practitioner who is comfortable in their own skin and confident in their work will never be offended by you asking that, trust me. Let's talk about under eye fillers, the good, bad and the ugly.
Yeah, so the under eye fillers are what, it's the tear trough filler, right? So the tear trough, a true tear trough when you're talking about it, is from this inner point of the eye here to where the pupil is, a midline down. That's what the tear trough is. And what happens in the tear trough is over time there's changes in fat in the face. This skin is very thin. The fat underneath here tends to slide down, so you get some loss of volume in the mid-face. Some patients have really deep hollowing here. And as a result of that, you kind of create a light trap. So it's like a cave in there, right? So what you're effectively doing is working with filler to bring that forward so the light reflects off it differently. So it goes from sort of shining a light like this and not seeing it to the light coming that way because the tissue's come forward. I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense to me. The point is, it's like it's recessed, but if you bring the tissue forward, the light bounces off it differently and it gives the illusion of much more rested eyes. That groove disappears.
Can you see that? I'm trying to, if I turned my ring light off, in fact, I'm going to turn my ring light off. It might go really dark in here. But
I'll show you on mine. Look. So you see that? That's like a darker circle.
No, here we go. Ready? Watch this.
Okay.
Can you see?
Okay, versus when the light, okay, yeah. And now shine the light on in front of you, and you see how it goes. So that's effectively what you're doing, is you're creating a way for the light to reflect off a slightly different surface. You're bringing that surface forward, so it's much more smooth and the light bounces off. The limitations of this treatment are, it's not actually treating the dark circle itself. So if you have pigmentation around the eyes, that's not what the treatment is for. This treatment is for a groove that is much more apparent, and to bring that groove a little bit more forward and just give the illusion of rested eyes, but not actually the cause of the pigmentation. Very important distinction, because I think patients come in saying, I want you to sort out this, and they sort of show me their dark skin and they don't even have a groove. So they're two different things.
So people who have the hollow, but I can't have tear trough filler. Why can't I have tear trough filler? Be brutally honest, Wassim.
No, because I think you'd said you'd had it in the past, and and it had sausaged in the area, hadn't it? And you'd had it done once or twice.
I always think it works really well on skin that isn't crepey and crinkly. But I think if you don't have good enough collagen to hold the filler back in its place, which should be really deep, almost on the bone, I'm never sure it works. A couple of people have said to me that I need to improve the collagen around my eyes, which would probably mean laser work and Professor Correct before having it done. But I also I'm like a tick box of people that shouldn't have under eye filler, because I have crepey, problematic under eyes, but also I have very bad allergies and hay fever. So the water runs to my eyes, and I wake with puffy eyes anyway. So it's just made them puffy.
Yeah. You don't need anything, you're gorgeous.
It is being polite, you see.
No.
You'll possibly go, you're far too old for that bag. That's right. Okay. So can anything be done? Now, I'm also so old that I'm not only getting hollow here, I'm getting hollow here as well. So you get an eye bag, then a hollow, then a cheek.
Same product. So you're using this gel that you would have used in this area, and you can deposit droplets of it right along where that dip is. Because what happens is it starts like this, right? So the first part is you get this groove here. The next part is the groove starts to go the whole way around. And the third part is the cheek gets flat. So it starts to look like everything's kind of like doing that, right? So the way is to work backwards. So this is grade 1 from here to here. Grade 2 is when it goes the whole way around. And grade 3 is when this gets flatter. So you kind of make a grade, if you have a grade 3, you correct that. Have a grade 2, you correct that. And then the last thing you do is treat the tear trough. So for this area you were talking about, you would put tiny, tiny little droplets right along. Let me show you on this. You're going to put the tiny droplets right along here, okay? Right along the orbit, the round bit. And that's just going to give you a really, really nice blend from the cheek to the bit that feels a bit puffy. That's all. So it's the exact same treatment. It's called Redensity 2. It's got a very low amount of hyaluronic acid, because remember, we don't want to draw water here. We want a gel that's going to spread nicely and not create more of a problem. If I injected a gel here that drew water, like a gel that I might use in a lip filler, it's a disaster. So this was designed specifically for this area. It just blends nicely. It has glutathione in it and some other, bits and pieces that are great for skin quality, but that's the side part of it. I think it's the actual texture of the skin that is perfectly designed for this area.
Now let's look at lips, because it's still the most popular area to fill.
Yes.
Are there any rules to who works best for lips? And also, do you treat smokers' lines by filling the lip or filling the skin?
Yeah, so for smokers' lines, what we would actually do, if they were quite deep, is we would do some laser resurfacing first of the skin, because that depth needs to be treated superficially. So this is our protocol in our clinic. So we will treat that first with some resurfacing of the skin, almost like we're sanding it down a bit, right? And so then our cracks aren't as deep. What happens and what contributes to these smokers' lines, which by the way don't only happen in smokers, in fact, it's actually only women who get them, but smokers and non-smokers, men
Do you
don't
know
get them.
why
Yeah.
only women get them?
No.
Because we talk so much more than men.
I
That's
like
actually
that.
true.
I
That's
must not laugh.
true. You know how many words a day a man uses? I mean, not you, because you're in the business of education and you speak to people all day, but the average man, I can't remember, I'm joking, but the average man uses like 100 words a day and the average woman uses like 2,000 a day.
No.
No, it's not. It's a lot more. It's a lot larger in numbers, but genuinely women just do speak more. We do. We're communicating.
That's an interesting fact.
Yeah.
Well, the medical side of it is because the fat changes here. I can't possibly agree that women speak more than men, but there's fat changes here. So what you do then is you're going to effectively replump the fat that's gone. So you're going to, you can either go directly into the line and do little droplets up the line, or you can come in with what's called a cannula, which is like a flute. So it's rounded at the end, and the gel comes out the top, literally like a flute, and just kind of safely pushes its way through, and do tiny threads to replump that tissue, because it's kind of done that, hasn't it? So you just replump it. That would be the treatment for smokers' lines. I'm not a fan of neuromodulators, the B word, bad B word, in this area. I don't think it's very short-lived. I've never seen a result that I thought, God, that was so worth it. I would actually address the individual lines probably by doing some you know, we use the cool peel here, which is a sort of a partially ablative laser, and then after that I would use a resilient. This is a highly mobile area. The gel has to move. You can't have lumps and bumps here. The gel has to move like your tissue moves. So it's not just HA you need RHA specifically for this area.
And if somebody comes to you and they've got relatively small, fine lips and they want a full-on pouch, how many treatments does it take and how many mils does it take?
Great question. And that's the main part of that is it can't be done in one session. It's going to be several sessions. It just looks ridiculous. If someone has very, very thin lips, suddenly you get that kind of, don't you? You get that kind of golf club sort of type thing. It's got to be done gently over time. I think when you have lip fillers, you shouldn't aim to have it all done in one session. I think it's better to do smaller amounts over periods of time. One, it's going to last longer, and two, you know, you're going to fly under the radar a little bit more. I think mils-wise, it's like the dreaded question, isn't it? I don't know is the answer. You shouldn't really be using more than 1 mil in maximum ever in a lip treatment, full stop, per sitting. So no one should be doing 2 mils in your lips. Your average lip filler will be somewhere between 0.7 to 1 in one sitting. How often you then do that depends on how fast you break it down. So
what's the most you've ever put into lips over a period of time?
1.
Really?
Yeah, in a sitting 1. I may have done it in 6.
Like 6 months to really give somebody like Angelina Jolie, Liz Hurley lips.
Probably 1.5 over the year. So 1 in the initial sitting and 0.5 at a correction further down the line.
Wow, that's amazing.
I don't think it needs to be any more than that. Also, like that just awful, right? I think the lips just give the game away so much, and they sort of start making you question everything else in their face, right? And also, like, when we communicate with each other, like, I don't know about you, but I can't stare at someone's eye so long. It's kind of freaky. So I always end up, my eyes always gravitate to their mouth afterwards. I'm always just looking at their mouths. So we're so used to picking up bad lip fillers, right? So I think it's an area that I would rather always patients leave slightly underwhelmed than feel I've ever done too much. I'd rather that side than the over.
So it's a sure giveaway. Now,
Yeah,
talking of which, somebody said, can filler ever permanently change the skin? Or when the filler wears off, does the skin always return to normal?
Yeah, so if you let's take, for example, a fat compartment in your face. So your face is like a big quilt, and there's sort of seams, stitches, and then there's different individual pockets, and some get bigger and some get smaller, like we discussed. These get bigger, the rest get smaller. If you already had volume in that fat compartment and I'm just replacing volume that was lost, what's the problem, right? I'm not stretching it farther than it ever was. I'm just reinflating a fat compartment to where it used to be. So I don't remember what the question was and why I've gone off on a tangent. I think the point of my answer was that no, But what was the question? Hold on, remind me.
The question. He's beginning to worry about flying people. The question was, do fillers have any permanent effect on the skin underneath, or does it just go back to normal?
No. So the body will break down your hyaluronic acid filler in the same way it breaks down your normal filler. It just takes a bit longer because of the chemical bonds. No, there's nothing to worry about.
And then the final question is, do you choose different fillers for different skin types or tones? Somebody emailed in and said that they were Lebanese. Would you choose a different filler for a Lebanese skin as you would for, say, somebody like me, or you would for, say, somebody with really dark Naomi Campbell type skin?
I think you'd assess the skin quality. It's not so much about skin color, it's about skin quality. And patients who have very, very thin skin, you need to be very, very careful with the really strong, rigid fillers, because remember, if you're injecting it, let's say I'm injecting the filler here, someone's got really, really thin skin, you're going to see that. Like, it's going to transmit all the way to the surface. So you have to use a slightly bouncier, softer gel. So I think you bespoke. It's like a painter's palette. So you bespoke the gel to the skin type. If someone has very, very thin skin here and the temples are really recessed, I'm not going to use a really thick gel because they're just get a big egg sticking out of their head. It's got to be a much more gentle filler that has the ability to stretch and fill the space differently. So I think in answer to your question again, because I always go on tangents, is that it's looking at skin quality. The skin quality will determine, for me, what filler I use rather than the skin color.
And I suppose that, in a way, goes back to me saying that I think my skin is too crepey for under eye filler. But when I was younger, you probably could have done it because my skin quality would have been better. My collagen would have held everything back in its place better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just saw a question down there. What type of filler would you use for Caitlin from Boston? One filled with anthrax.
Now, for anybody who doesn't know who Caitlin from Boston is, I suggest, tell me you've highlighted. Do you highlight your stories?
It's on there, yes. I got a bit embarrassed off. It's on there. It's the one that says she cheated. I'm very petty.
No, you're not. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, he is without a doubt the best, funniest person on Instagram. If he's really busy and he's working and he's educating and he's being selfless and professional, sometimes his stories go a little bit quiet, but trust me, he's going to Mexico for a week. He's going to have a lot of fun. He'll be drinking tequila. His stories will be hilarious. Tell everybody about the picture of you at, was it sixth form college or was it a university drama group?
Oh, at school. At school.
So there's a picture of Wassim. He will put it up on his stories later.
Oh, I will now.
If you think for a second that not only is he an incredibly talented, kind, generous, wonderful doctor and aesthetic practitioner, he is also a very frustrated actor. But this picture in drama school,
yeah,
kind of explains why, because he's in a group of people. And who else is in the group?
All those Oscar-nominated people. I'm not bitter. Chiwetel Ejiofor was in there with me. Chiwetel Ejiofor, you will know from 12 Years a Slave, Amistad, Oscar nominated, I'm not bitter. And then on the other side, you have Sally Hawkins from Paddington, and they were all allowed to go to drama school, weren't they? I wasn't. Should have been me, I was robbed.
Where did you go to school? Where did you go to school?
I was in Dulwich College.
Oh, so this picture is from Dulwich College.
From
and
Dulwich
you sort of think sometimes, because seriously, I mean, he's a very much, which is why his Instagram is so entertaining, he's very much a frustrated professional actor. And you think, what are your chances? You don't know anybody famous. And then he drops this picture in and you're kind of like, boom, mic drop. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fine.
It's, yeah, that's cool. It's a cool picture.
Will you promise us you'll keep us entertained in Mexico?
I will do. I'm going to go home and finish packing now. Yeah, it's not going to be quiet. So that's good. I'm sure there's always going to be a drama. I've already checked and it's raining, so it's just typical.
And that's another thing, is wherever he goes in the world,
all of these with me on the flight.
He travelled down to Italy earlier this year. Every country he went through basically was hammered with really bad rain.
Horrific. It was horrific.
Yeah, I think your weather will be gorgeous in Mexico at this time of year.
I hope so. I hope so.
I adore you. Thank you so much.
I adore you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm sorry I was speaking so fast, everyone. I was
perfect. You're the perfect educator. I will tag Christine Hall and I will tag Professor Faraz, and they will come on. I don't know a Dr. G, but I'm going to try and find Dr. G. So will you tag her for me? And
Dr. G, I'll get her in touch with you. For sure.
Love
For
you.
sure. Take care. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much.
I don't hate you for going to Mexico without me much.
Do you want to meet me at the airport?
Yeah, I would. Right, I'm going to go and pan.
Okay. All right. See you later.
Lots of love.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.